So we recently had a God of War announced for the PC, and it kind of surprised a lot of people, mostly because it was just announced randomly on Twitter and PlayStation blog one day, but also because it's coming out before the Uncharted PC game that was announced before it. It kind of seems like Sony is accelerating these PC releases, and now it looks like another PlayStation game could be making the jump to PC, and this one is surprising people once again because it appears that that window that Sony has, or the length of time from PlayStation release to PC, could actually be shortening, and to me, it spells out an interesting future for Sony going forward. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the Spawnwave Plus channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. Let's head over here to pushsquare.com. I went over this in Newswave this morning around Sackboy: A Big Adventure making the jump to PC. This is currently a rumor based on a SteamDB listing under its codename Project Marmalade. This was something that was also spotted in the GeForce Now leak that was massive. It had some weird games in there, like different ones you wouldn't necessarily expect to see come out, but you also saw God of War for PC. You even saw Grand Theft Auto Trilogy Remastered, both of which are coming out in the next couple of months. So you hear about Sackboy: A Big Adventure. That came out less than a year ago, and now you're seeing a SteamDB listing. Is it coming together now to where Sony could be moving Sackboy: A Big Adventure to PC a bit sooner than people were anticipating, since we've mostly seen Windows 2, 3, 4 years, right? For these different games going from PlayStation to PC. They like to spread them out, sell as many of these as they can to PlayStation owners, or work to sell PlayStations to people with these games as exclusives, and then move them to PC later at near full price, generally about $50, and that way they can then benefit from selling them all over again. But having Sackboy: A Big Adventure go to PC potentially a year to 2 years after release is effectively shrinking down that length of time that we are expecting, which tells me that these game releases are accelerating. The fact that God of War is coming out in January and not after the Uncharted game, and we could even see Sackboy maybe somehow come out before Uncharted. We've seen it over the last year or so. We are getting these PC announcements very, very rapidly from Sony and PlayStation Studios, which tells me they are trying to fill up the library of games they have available on PC, because I think Sony's end game here is to have their own launcher on PC. They already have an application for PlayStation Now that you have to download so you can stream PlayStation games to your PC. So I almost wonder if they are considering kind of morphing that application into its own storefront like Steam or Epic Games Store or Origin. That way they don't have to pay the 30% cut to Valve for these games. The only thing is they have to build that library up and then eventually move them over to that launcher. And I think the way that they cap all of this off is that they do try a day and date release. And I think we are trending in that direction. I've been saying it for a little while now, and I think the way they could do that is with a live service game that could benefit from the larger user base of having PC and PlayStation alongside of each other. And the way I think they could do this, and it would be interesting because it is technically a game that's already been released on PlayStation, so they might be able to play it that way. But we've heard the rumors about a Last of Us remake, potentially also having the multiplayer factions linked to it. Maybe they try that. Maybe they release The Last of Us remake on PlayStation and on PC all at the same time, and they introduce their launcher with that as one of the big games to help push it on PC. And then you also have a multiplayer element with factions that, let's face it, they'll also probably attach microtransactions, those kinds of things too, but it would benefit from the larger user base that's on PC along with PlayStation combined. And I have heard people say, well, if Sony starts doing day-and-date releases, there's going to be less PlayStations that sell, and I don't necessarily believe that would at least get to the extent to where Sony would just stop making the PlayStation, because the Xbox is still selling. Like, they can't keep Series X systems in stock at all. The PlayStation obviously is in very high demand, but the fact that the Xbox is selling out as well, despite all of those games being available on PC through Game Pass, is pretty telling. I think there are still just a lot of people who don't necessarily want to deal with PC, despite what the internet will tell you that everyone is just playing on PC if these games are going to PC alongside of PlayStation and Xbox. Not necessarily. I've seen plenty of people working in different stores who just don't want to deal with PC. It's just the way it is. Whether they're working with PCs all day at work and they want to come home and sit down on the couch and play their Xbox or PlayStation, or they don't want to deal with the troubleshooting that goes in to having a PC, maintaining it, installing video cards, CPUs, even building the thing, or just drivers and Windows. Let's face it, Windows just breaks whenever it wants to. So there are a lot of people who don't want to deal with that. They just want the convenience and simplicity of a console. So yeah, there's still a massive market for that. And the interesting thing about Sony is they've managed to completely corner the third-party market. Like, third-party games appear to sell the best on PlayStation, and obviously we see Nintendo, who lives off their exclusives, they don't have that benefit. So they can't go out to a wider audience on PC because they legitimately may have an issue selling consoles then. And if they have that issue, they won't have much else to hold them up, because if you look at Sony, they still collect a 30% cut on all of the games that sell through their storefront. So the Maddens, the Call of Duties, the FIFAs, the Far Cries, the Battlefields, all of those games released on PlayStation, they sell extremely well through that platform. So it's still very lucrative for Sony to release and sell hardware alongside of software that may be going to PC on the same day. I think at the very least, they're going to try it. And I feel like a game like The Last of Us Remake is one that kind of skates that line of, oh, it's already come out on the PlayStation platform years ago, and we're just kind of re-releasing it with new features and multiplayer, and we're going to also put it on PC. Now, I also do want to go over the other possibility with the Steam DB listing, in that this could have just been something they were using to test during remote work, and it's not actually going to be a thing. Steam DB listings can just kind of exist indefinitely, like just for a while, and nothing ever happens with it. This could even be something they have planned maybe for legitimately 3 or 4 years from now, and they're just getting everything set up now. It's still under its code name even, so they weren't necessarily ready to reveal that Sackboy was going to PC, which is different than God of War, which just showed up as a Steam DB listing for God of War on PC. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are on Sackboy, a big adventure, potentially going to PC, and maybe even shrinking down this length of time that we believe to be happening with Sony and PlayStation Studios, where their games would go to PC way down the line. But what if we get to a point where it's 2 years, and then 1 year, and then maybe day and date? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.